Welcome to today's episode. I'm joined by Nataraj Chaitanya. I've got that.
Yes.
Got that, nailed it. Chaitanya. I love your full name. Welcome back.
Thank you. Nice to be back on the pod.
He just wants to say that.
I know, I love it. It's a strange ecstasy to say that.
Yeah.
And this setup, it makes me feel like I'm on The View.
Yeah, so if you're not watching on YouTube, we're on the View set. No. And we've got a fancy table and fancy chairs and feels very fancy.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Comfy though. Comfy.
I'm comfortable. I'm feeling relaxed. I'm feeling like, let's talk about philosophy.
Yes. So we're not talking about the View or set that we're on. We're talking about philosophy. We've had a lot of fun today off camera. So we're going to continue that fun on camera.
Yes.
So Nataraj has done a couple of episodes with us before. And one of the episodes we were saying that yoga will meet you where you are. So we're going to unpack that a little bit today. So let's kick off and talk about what that means to you and what you mean by that statement.
Yeah, so one of the texts of the yogic tradition of Vedanta, the wisdom of yoga, is called the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita presents yogic pathways in which we can come to know the self or feel one with life or connect with the source or spirit or God. And it's a really compassionate system because it takes into account all the different kind of temperaments a person can have. And so a very easy typology is to break life down into action, feeling, and thinking. We're feeling, thinking, doing beings. And so not everyone filters their life through their mind, you know? And so some people, they approach yogic philosophy and they're like, oh my God, this is so heady. How am I ever gonna wrap my head around this? Well, you don't have to, you know? Because the Bhagavad Gita lays out a process and a practice and a philosophy of what's called karma yoga, the yoga of action. Karma yoga says, do acts of selfless service. And when you give your best to an action, you can confidently let go of the fruit of the action or the result. So one, we're not doing things that are just exclusively motivated by self-concern or self-profit or self-promotion. The idea is we're trying to uplift everyone else around us with our behavior and what we do. And if we give our best to it, even if you only have 10% in the tank at the time, if you give all 10% in that action, you can walk away saying, I did the best I could with what I had. And whether it works out or not, whether it's a success or a failure, that won't bother you.
Yes.
And so
that's actually one of my favorite sayings in life is this your best?
Mm.
Am I doing my best? Am I giving it my best for where I'm at at that particular time?
Exactly. And so there's room for your humanity there. There's room for your skill, your talent, your ambition. But the idea is renouncing the result. You know, there are so many aspects of any moment that are out of our control. And it's recognizing that those are at play also. But if you give your best, if you perform an action with great love, if it's selfless in its nature, if you give your best, you don't have to worry. Why worry? So this is the path of karma yoga. If you're an emotional type, the scripture gives a path of bhakti yoga, which is the yoga of devotion, that you can use the love that you love with to become one with all of life, that you could build a loving relationship. You could look at life relationally. And in any circumstance, it's always possible to give your love. Now, the particulars of what that looks like might vary situation to situation. You know, there's a level of appropriateness in any circumstance. But it looks at there are various bhavas or ways of relating in any situation or to the highest. And so we're playing hide and seek with God in any moment, and all of life is that. So we could relate to that as the Lord and the servant. Most people, when they encounter religion or spiritual life, that's the dynamic that's set up. God is the Lord and I am the servant. That's also the attitude of the karma yogi. But then there are other options, because that doesn't make sense to all people, because we all have different emotional proclivities. The next is friends. The Sufi mystics, they refer to God as the friend. And, you know, that's a relationship of equals. You can unburden your heart to a friend. Your friend is your supreme confidant. A friend is someone who keeps your secrets, you know? You can relate to life in that way. It's a relationship of equals, and you want the best for your friends. You want to love them. Like, you put up with stuff from your friends that you would never put up with from your parents or your lover, you know? And so you could relate to all of life as the friend. If you're lonely in life, you should cultivate the love inside of you that you want to receive. So if you want friends, become a friend. Very simple. Other bhavas or attitudes could be parent and child. God could be the child or the parent. You could relate to God as the supreme mother, or you could say, all of the world is like my child, and I'm nursing and nurturing and caring for them. And some people that makes sense for, or the father, Or the most mystic, the most esoteric, the most ecstatic is the relationship of lover and beloved. Like God is my intimate relationship. And so we see a lot of the great mystics of any tradition having that kind of relationship. From all spiritual traditions, they have this kind of relationship with the divine or with life. And there's room on the path to bring your sense of eros and your longing and your passion to all of that. And so the path of bhakti yoga uses our emotional proclivity, our relational capacity to make our life a loving thing, a devotional thing. At any moment, it's possible to give our love, to give our worship, to give our attention, to give our care. And then finally, if you're a thinker, it's about the yoga of meditation and thinking lofting thoughts. You can use your thoughts to catapult you into unity consciousness. You can use your meditation practice so you feel one with everything. And so however you are, there are pathways and practices and philosophies to meet you exactly how you are. And ultimately, if you do any of these things well with your whole heart, if you give your best to them, all these pathways eventually merge in the experience of love, which is oneness. And so these practices, they change the one who does them. We all have this kind of armor we've put on from having to navigate life. And we have this kind of wall we built around our heart and these like strong boundaries we put around our mind. But when you engage with yoga, like brick by brick, stone by stone, the wall starts to come down. And when you feel that your heart is the same as the heart of life, your heart is the cosmic heart, your heart is the sacred heart, the divine heart, that's total oneness. It's one of the ways that we can look at freedom from a yogic perspective or moksha. It's not just about the thoughts you're feeling, it's clear thinking and positive feeling. And so that's ultimately what we're going for. Yogic practices are honing in on that. And so we have skillful action. The Bhagavad Gita says yoga is skill in action, and then clear thinking and positive emotion. So the practices are in service of all of that. Ultimately, everything merging in love.
And does that connect to, I guess, your highest value?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have a thing that I've built my life around. It's yoga. In any moment, is this deepening my contact with yoga, or is this pulling me away from it? Is this putting me closer to my highest value, or is it putting a barrier between me and it? The idea is that it's here now, waiting to be realized. Your heart is longing to be known. The heart of life, the meaning of life, is also longing to be known. It's here now. Are you? And if stuff gets in the way, those are the things that spiritual life ultimately asks you to let go of or change your relationship to. We all have desires and passions and fixations and all kinds of stuff. But the idea is you should be the one who has those things. They shouldn't have you. If you're a slave to those things, yoga says apply discipline, get good ideas, perform positive actions, get yourself out of self-concern, widen your sphere of concern. And if you do that, the grip of those tensions will lessen and you'll build a better relationship with your higher value.
Yeah, beautiful. So to sum up, your thoughts on love? Would love to hear that. I know we both love love.
Yes, and the world loves a lover, which is so beautiful.
The world loves a lover.
There's a text called Narada Bhakti Sutras, and in it, the sage Narada, he expounds the philosophy on how do we cultivate divine love. And first, one of the first sutras in the text, he says, Amrita Swarupa Cha. Amrit is the nectar of immortality, and Swarupa is who we really are. So remember, the subject is love. Love is the nectar of immortality, and it's who we really are. It's the Swarupa. It's the higher self. It's who we are without our tension, our hang-ups, our history. And then later in the text, he goes on to say, well, what do we do about that, if that's who we really are? And the text says, prakashyate kwapi patre, which means love is made manifest where there's an able, open vessel. And this word prakashyate, the root word prakasha, it represents inner luminosity. Consciousness is self-illumined. And so there's this great light inside of us. And when we allow it to flash or shine forth, it fills the vessel. And so our process is looking at all the ways where we've closed ourselves off from love, and the practice is meant to remove those so that we can be a greater container for love, for that amrit, that nectar, the juice, the sweetness of life. And so are you going to be a thimble? Are you going to be a glass? Or are you going to be the ocean? And it's up to you, however big you want to make the container. Love will rush in and fill it. We're making space for grace. So we all have ways that we cut ourselves off. We think negatively about ourselves. We have imposter syndrome. Yogic practices to to flash the light of our awareness, prakasha, on those things. And then once we see them, we're like, that's not me. That's not who I really am. And then the letting go is easy. It's a joyful letting go. It's not like, oh God, look at what a terrible person I am. No, you have access to the love that you love with, which is who you really are. And then you're saying, it's so easy to let this go because I'm turning towards love. I'm doing this for the sake of love, for the highest. I want the nectar. I don't want anything less, you know? And so love is manifest where there's an able vessel. Prakashyate kwapi patre. So you could ask yourself, what are the ways in which I've created blocks to the flow of love in my life? Is there some attitude that I'm holding? Is it an emotion that I'm carrying? A narrative that I've got a confirmation bias for? Is it a behavior? And if you connect with the love that you love with, and then you bring that love and acceptance and compassion to those tendencies of the mind, of the heart, of our actions and speech, the letting go can be joyful, it can be easeful, it can be graceful.
That's a beautiful journal prompt. What are the blocks that I have created for love?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Yeah, definitely. Because the idea is if we create space, love will rush in and fill it. And that's the most satisfying, most desirable thing possible.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I love that episode.
I love it too.
I love love.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, see you next time.
See you next time on the pod.
On the pod.